Hey, what's going on, Who Dat Nation? And welcome to another edition of the State of the Saints podcast, where we talk New Orleans Saints. Well, Who Dat Nation, Brandon Marshall is now a New Orleans Saint, and he had his first practice. And I know each and every one of you would be happy to know that he didn't get hurt. Thank you. Thank you. But Brandon Marshall, they said he did an outstanding job. You've been hearing things all in the news. People have been talking about how great he looks, how in shape he looks. And I would think people need to understand how important it is for a football player to be in football shape. Yes, we were so excited as Saints fans to know that Dez Bryant was signed. But one thing about Dez Bryant, he spent 10 weeks without being in football. I mean, he didn't do anything football related. I mean, of course he worked out, but there's a difference between being in shape and being in football shape. Brandon Marshall had an advantage. Brandon Marshall played at the beginning of the season with the Seattle Seahawks, so he was in football shape. And now that he is a New Orleans Saint, I feel like he has something to contribute. Brandon Marshall talked to the media, and he talked about how he would be able to adjust to the Saints offense.
And then I've had 9 different offensive coordinators, so slant is slant, seam is seam. You just got to understand the terminology, and then also, the quarterback's timing. But for the most part, I'm comfortable with what we're doing here. Still got, a lot to catch up on.
What about playing with a guy like Drew Brees? What's it like playing?
Yeah, I think that's a wide receiver's dream. It's exciting. Then also you got, Mike T over there, who's a beast, and a running back. So, it's a complete team, and, they're on the roll right now.
He also talked about the opportunity of possibly playing in his very first playoff game.
Yeah, let's not jump ahead. I got a lot of learning to do, and, a lot of catching up.
I was really impressed with the interview with Brandon Marshall. I was really impressed, and I encourage everybody to go to NewOrleansSaints.com and check it out. It's maybe like 8 minutes long. But one thing that stuck out to me was how humble he was. You look at a guy like Brandon Marshall, a man who is absolutely one of the best wide receivers that I've seen in my lifetime. I know he had a lot of troubles in his past that prohibited him from being an all-time great, in my opinion. But this guy accomplished so much in his career. So to see how humble he is, just to get opportunity to show that he still has it, that really stuck out to me. Brandon Marshall is a guy who has the first and second place record for most receptions in a football game. He broke his own record, okay? One season he had 20 receptions, and then the next season he had 21 receptions. This guy is certified, man. And not to mention his yards after the catch. His nickname is Beast because of what he does after he catches the ball. He's a wide receiver when he catches the ball, and then he turns into a running back. He's known for his stiff arms and his, how violent he is after he catches the ball. It's hard to bring a guy down. Man, a guy is 6'5", 230 pounds. And I can never remember a teammate of Brandon Marshall saying that he ever quit on his team. I never heard that. Now, I heard that he has some issues, of course. I mean, it's well documented. And I encourage everybody to check out his football life episode on NFL Network, where it talks about some of the things that he dealt with. He deals with mental illness. It's no surprise for those that follow football. But looking at Brandon Marshall towards the latter years of his career, you really have to be impressed. This guy's a good locker room guy. He's a locker room leader. And I feel like a person like Michael Thomas can actually learn a lot from a Brandon Marshall. I mean, I know we'll probably say, man, Michael Thomas don't really need to learn much. But honestly, man, we got to remember Michael Thomas is still a young player in this league. And I think that somebody like Brandon Marshall can teach him a thing or two. You heard at the beginning of this podcast when Brandon Marshall was talking, he had 9 offensive coordinators. Now, I don't think any of those offensive coordinators are better than a Sean Payton. But at the end of the day, I mean, this guy's seen it all. And honestly, he's done it all. And I think it's a good look for the New Orleans Saints. I was one of those people, I was kind of skeptical. I mean, we are looking at a team that is clicking on all cylinders right now. And one thing that'll have a team clicking on all cylinders is something called chemistry. I mean, chemistry is important with a team. And I know a lot of people was giving the Saints flack last week because they was throwing up the X for Dez Bryant. But this is a true team right here, man. The Saints got almost like a college locker room. You know, when you have a group of guys who rally around each other, hang out with each other, and play for each other. That is championship football. Man, forget all the rest of this, man. We have seen great teams implode. I mean, we look at some of the great teams that were put together, didn't win no Super Bowl because they couldn't put it together, because they couldn't get along. I mean, even in basketball, man, we look at the Shaqs and the Kobes, man. I mean, honestly, these are individuals who had all the talent in the world, but at the end of the day, they didn't get along. The chemistry wasn't there. And of course, we all know what happened. But the Saints have great chemistry on the team, and you think that a person that's coming in off the street, you don't want them to affect that. But I don't feel like Brandon Marshall will. I like this pickup for the Saints. I think that he will do some great things for the Saints because I feel like he thinks he has something to prove. Not to mention that he wants to be a part of that 1,000-catch club. Make no mistake about it. 1,000 catches is still something in the National Football League. For a player to have 1,000 catches is important. Brandon Marshall is 30 catches away from being a 1,000-catch receiver. And honestly, 1,000-catch receivers most of the time end up in Canton. And you better believe that Brandon Marshall wants to be part of the Hall of Fame. You get those 1,000 catches and you get into the playoffs. There's not anything a committee can say to stop you from being in the Hall of Fame. And this will be a true success story for Brandon Marshall, a guy who has redeemed himself. This guy's burned down a lot of bridges in his career. And now you look at him, 34 years old, he's trying to right the wrongs of his career. And I think this is a great place for him. I think it's a great place for him to do some great things. And I'm excited to see what he brings to the table. Do I think it's going to be anytime soon? Probably not. Probably going to take a couple weeks for him to get acclimated to the offense. But when he does, we're going to see some big things out of Brandon Marshall. There's no doubt in my mind. This has been the State of the Saints podcast. Check out the State of the Saints podcast on YouTube. Go to youtube.com, search the State of the Saints podcast, hit that bell for notifications. And also check out the State of the Saints podcast on iHeartRadio.com. Till next time, all I have to say is, who dat?